Okay there, so it's coming to the end of the year and it's coming time that sometimes bees need some syrup to be fed. There are a range of different types of feeders and they all have different advantages and pros and cons, like a lot of stuff do. So starting over here, we've got a frame feeder, very handy for nukes or smaller colonies. It'll go into any national hive. I'm sure they're available for other sizes as well. You can get a bit of a problem with bees drowning in it. I don't know if you can see at the bottom there's a piece of wood. That piece of wood hasn't just fallen in there, it's a lifeboat. So when the bees go on, they stand on it, they can mop up the syrup and they can not drown in it. So frame feeders, don't use them a lot myself, but they can be a useful thing. The next feeder we got is this one, is called an English feeder, and Thorns make this one, but other companies make a very similar one. It holds about 6 litres. It should have a little dome in there. This one hasn't got one, but it would look remarkably like that if it was in there. I'll have to find that. These are quite handy. They fit inside a super, so they're plastic, but they just sit inside a super over the crown board hole, and the bees will come up. This centre region is ribbed, so the bees can climb up it, and the hole in the middle is ribbed, so the hole sits over the crown board hole. The bees come up, the lid goes over so they can't get into the pool of syrup and drown, but they're sort of on their little island and they'll suck the syrup down. So that's an English feeder. These next ones are called rapid feeders. Rapid feeders are quite a small feeder. They take about maybe 1.5 litres, possibly 2 litres. Again, same principle. Bees come up the middle, ribbed cone in the middle. They can't drown in it. The only trouble with these ones is that bees drink a lot of syrup at that sort of in the autumn. Unless you've got one of these near home, it can be empty in a day or so. So they need topping up regularly, which is a pain if it's an out apiary. What you will find in all feeders from time to time is if you use them, they'll rapidly end up looking like that. It's just kind of mildewy algae growing in the syrup. It's not a big issue. You can add some thymol to the syrup. I can't remember the quantities, but you can easily look that up. And that stops it. Or just when you finish, before you refill it, you can give it a clean. But that's often what it looks like. Bit yucky, but I don't think it's terribly harmful. Another type of feeder is a contact feeder. So the idea with these, they come in different sizes, is that it's a bucket with a mesh with a lid, and you can see the lid's got mesh in it. Once you fill the feeder, you invert it. Once you put the lid on properly, you invert it over the crown board hole, and the vacuum means that the syrup doesn't all pour out, and the bees can come up. These are particularly recommended when you're doing Bailey comb changes and sort of comb changes in the springtime, but they'll work as a feeder at any time of year. They do sometimes tend to leak syrup a little bit, so if you're worried about robbing, it might be a bit of an issue. This final one we'll show you is the largest capacity one I've got. This one holds about 9-10 litres, something like that. Great for out apiaries. These are a Thorns one. There's a very similar type of feeder called an Ashforth feeder or a Miller feeder. They do very much the same job. This one again, the cone in the middle. Bees have got little steps. If you buy these from Thorn, the only thing you need to do is give it a couple of layers of paint, of masonry paint inside to make it syrup proof. That's a little tour of feeders. Hope that's useful, and I'll post some stuff up on syrup mixes for this time of year.